My old Ridgid sander is starting to go bad. When I say old, it's about 5 years, I think, is how long I've had this. It's a model number R2601, and 5 years is not a long time for a sander that doesn't get used all that often, but this thing has already gone bad in the, I think it's either the switch or the variable speed control. So when I try to mess with the speed, sometimes it just goes nuts, and sometimes when I'm not messing with the speed, it'll still go nuts. So I'm going to try to go through customer service and see if this is covered under their lifetime warranty, but in the past I have had zero luck actually using Ridgid's warranty. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, I picked up a new sander after reading a lot of reviews. I got the Bosch R0S20VS. And the reviews say this is a great sander, although I saw a lot of comments complaining that there's a cup in the pad, so it's a little bit concave there. And I thought surely they would have fixed this by now, but no, I got my sander and found out that it does have a bit of a dip in the center of the pad. And I made me go back and check my Ridgid, because I hadn't actually looked at that before. I just knew that it never really seemed to sand quite how I wanted it to. And I found that the Ridgid is a little bit convex, so it's higher in the center here than in the edges. So I have two opposites. I have one that's curved that way and one that's curved that way. I contacted customer support about this. It was a weekend. They're a Monday through Friday organization, so we'll see if I can get a replacement pad for it. I read some good things about their customer service, so we'll see if that's true. Again, I might try to do something with the Ridgid. We'll see what happens. I'll probably put an update in the comments as far as how both of these went with the customer service. But what I'm going to do today, I have this this lovely piece of ambrosia maple here, and I'm just going to do a quick sanding test with both of these to see how they perform and how the curvature of the pad affects the finish. So if I can get this on maybe the second or third try, sweet, and without kicking the camera over, get this one on as well. And these are brand new 120 grit sanding discs, and just to make this test a little more clear, I'm going to mark down the length of the board with the pencil, just so you can see how quickly those lines disappear as I'm sanding. Alright, enough of that. Let's start the race. I'm just going to let the Ridgid run the left and the Bosch run the right. That was probably an unnecessary explanation, but here we go. I do like the brake on the Bosch. Alright, so as far as how much material was removed, I guess they're probably about the same. I've done this test 3 times now, and I've found that the Ridgid has been a little bit quicker almost every time, although this time, maybe I just, this time instead of going this way, I went side to side. It looks like the Bosch removed a little bit more. Either way, I'd say not a huge difference, but again, with the Ridgid pad being cupped in the center, I'm not getting as much contact out towards the edges unless I were to tip that sander, whereas the Bosch is contacting more on the outside. Let's take it there. This is the part that I thought was more interesting. Here we go with the Ridgid. There is more sawdust in the center and less towards the outside, and I've noticed this quite a few times when sanding, is sometimes the sandpaper will start to clog up in the middle, which really just exacerbates the problem. And I don't get a lot of action on the outside of the sanding disc. So when I'm approaching the edge of a project, either I have to move the sander closer, which can put it off balance, or I have to just push some pressure towards the edge, which messes with the whole random orbit thing. That's just not a good idea. Either way, this is working more in the center, and the outside of this disc is being wasted. The Bosch, this is just terrible. I mean, 90% of the surface area of this sanding disc is not being used. I'm not sure why they haven't fixed that yet, but I think, yeah, I'll wait and see what customer service says. If they can get me a flat pad, then I'll probably keep it, because it is a pretty smooth running sander, and I like the dust collection. But yeah, I can't use something that's going to waste 90% of every sanding pad that I own, because these will just run out way too quickly. So that's it. I don't know why it's hard to find a flat pad on a sander, but I will continue the search. Maybe I'll have to try a DeWalt or a Porter cable next. Well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, hope that was some useful information, and if you have any good or bad experiences with a random orbit sander, please post it in the comments. I'm curious to see what everybody's preference is. And before you post anything about your sander, make sure you check the pad to see if it's flat, because that's relevant.